Admiral Vextar's 6 eyes focused intensely on the holographic display floating before his command chair. The reptilian warrior had conquered 47 worlds for the Galactic Empire, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. His massive claws tapped nervously against the armrest as he studied the strange vessel ahead. "Target Alpha maintains position at coordinate 779, reported his navigation officer, a spider-like creature with multiple arms working different control panels simultaneously. "The vessel appears to be waiting for us, Admiral." Vextar's forked tongue flicked out, tasting the recycled air of his flagship's bridge. Something felt wrong. Human ships were supposed to be primitive, barely capable of faster-than-light travel. Yet this sleek vessel ahead of them seemed to shimmer and pulse with unknown energy. Aboard the experimental ship, Whisper, Captain Li Hyun stood calmly on his bridge, hands clasped behind his back. The 35-year-old officer had spent the last 3 years testing humanity's most classified technology. Today would be its first real combat trial. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the alien fleet," announced Lieutenant Park Min-ho, his fingers dancing across the quantum sensor array. 12 battleships, 36 cruisers, and at least 50 smaller attack vessels. They're spreading into attack formation. Li Hyun nodded slowly. "How long until they reach optimal firing range?" 2 minutes, sir," replied Ensign Kim Da-hee from the tactical station. Her voice carried slight nervousness despite months of simulation training. "Should we begin evasive maneuvers?" "Negative. Hold position and maintain normal space configuration." Li Hyun's calm demeanor helped steady his crew's nerves. "Let them make the first move." On the Imperial flagship, Vextar studied detailed scans of the human vessel. The ship measured only 300 meters in length, tiny compared to his kilometer-long dreadnought. Its hull appeared to be made of some unknown crystalline material that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. "Admiral, we're detecting strange quantum fluctuations around the target," reported his science officer, a floating jellyfish-like being with translucent skin. "The readings are unlike anything in our databases." "Probably some primitive shielding technology," Vextar dismissed with a wave of his clawed hand. "Prepare the plasma cannons. We'll vaporize this pest and continue to their homeworld." The bridge of the Whisper hummed with quiet efficiency. Engineer Oh Jun-sik monitored the phantom drive systems from his station, watching power levels fluctuate in perfect harmony. The technology represented humanity's greatest scientific achievement, developed in secret orbital laboratories beyond the outer planets. "Sir, they're charging weapons," Park Min-ho announced, his sensors detecting the massive energy buildup across the alien fleet. "Multiple targeting locks confirmed. They're really going to fire on us." Li Hyun took a deep breath. "All hands, prepare for phase shift. Park Min-ho, begin recording everything for the archives. History is about to be made." "Phase shift to level 3, he commanded calmly, his voice carrying throughout the ship's communication system. The Whisper began to change. Its solid hull became translucent, then semi-transparent, as if the ship was slowly fading from reality. The quantum field generators hummed louder, manipulating the vessel's molecular structure to exist partially outside normal space-time dimensions. Vextar watched in fascination as the human ship seemed to become ghostly. "Fire all weapons," he roared, his voice echoing through the massive bridge. Hundreds of energy beams lanced through space toward the Whisper. Plasma bolts that could melt through solid steel, particle beams capable of splitting atoms, and antimatter torpedoes with enough power to crack small moons, all converged on the human vessel. The Imperial crew watched in stunned silence as their weapons passed harmlessly through the translucent ship, like light through fog. The Whisper remained exactly where it was, completely unharmed and somehow existing in a state between solid matter and empty space. "Impossible!" Vextar roared, his massive frame rising from the command chair. "All ships, concentrate fire! Maximum power!" But even as the second wave of devastating energy struck the phantom ship, Li Hyun was already implementing the next phase of his plan. "Helm, execute Ghost Walk maneuver. Take us through their formation." The Whisper began moving forward, maintaining its ghostly state as it approached the alien fleet. Imperial gunners continued firing desperately, their weapons creating brilliant light shows against the star field, but having no effect on their target. "They're coming straight at us," screamed the Imperial tactical officer. "Collision course with the flagship." Vextar braced for impact, but the human ship passed through his dreadnought's hull like it was made of mist. For a brief moment, the whisper existed inside the alien vessel, occupying the same space as tons of metal and sophisticated technology. "Now," Li Hyun said quietly. The whisper released a concentrated electromagnetic pulse while phased inside the enemy ships. The energy discharge bypassed all shields and armor, striking directly at the vessel's internal systems. 3 Imperial cruisers went dark immediately, their crews scrambling in emergency lighting as critical systems failed throughout their ships. Before the aliens could react, the whisper had already emerged from the other side of their formation and began fading from their sensors entirely, becoming invisible to conventional detection methods. Vextar stared at his tactical display in complete disbelief as his fleet reported massive system failures across multiple vessels. The human ship had vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving behind only disabled ships and terrified crews who had witnessed something that defied every law of physics they understood. The crystal spires of the Imperial capital world, Zexithara, pierced the purple sky like massive diamond needles, each one pulsing with the energy that powered the galaxy's most feared empire. Deep within the tallest spire, Emperor Thaxelon sat upon his throne of living metal, the ancient seat shifting and adapting to his massive form. His forearms drummed impatiently against the armrests as his war council gathered in the circular chamber. General Morgeth, a towering insectoid warrior with razor-sharp mantis claws, approached the throne carrying a data crystal that glowed ominously red. His compound eyes reflected the chamber's ambient light as he activated the holographic projector built into the floor. "My Emperor, the Third Fleet's encounter has revealed a disturbing truth," Morgeth began, his mandibles clicking nervously. "These humans possess technology that should not exist." The hologram displayed the recorded battle footage from Admiral E. Vextar's surviving ships. The assembled war council, consisting of the Empire's most brilliant military minds from dozens of conquered species, watched in stunned silence as the human vessel phased through solid matter like a ghost. "Impossible," whispered General Klavak, a crystalline being whose transparent body sparkled with internal light. "No known technology can achieve selective intangibility." Morgeth manipulated the controls, zooming in on critical moments of the encounter. "Our scientists have analyzed every frame. The humans call it phantom drive technology, my lord. They manipulate quantum states to phase between dimensions, existing partially in our reality and partially somewhere else entirely." Emperor Thaxelon's primary eyes narrowed while his secondary pair focused on tactical implications. His species had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years by understanding and countering every form of technology they encountered. This was different. "How many ships do they possess with this capability?" the Emperor demanded. "Unknown, my lord. Our intelligence networks have detected unusual energy readings from their outer system installations, but they've kept this technology completely hidden until now." Meanwhile, 3 billion kilometers away from Earth, Dr. Kim, So Young, floated in the zero-gravity observation deck of orbital research station Prometheus. The brilliant physicist watched through reinforced transparent aluminum as construction robots worked tirelessly on humanity's most ambitious project. Her dark hair drifted around her face as she reviewed the successful field test data on her holographic tablet. "The quantum field generators performed beyond expectations," she said to her research team, who were gathered around a 3-dimensional holographic model of the phantom drive system. "Captain Li Hyun's encounter proves our calculations were correct." Dr. Yoon Jae-min, her deputy and quantum mechanics specialist, highlighted specific sections of the drive schematics. "The phase variance held stable throughout the entire engagement. We can definitely scale this up for fleet production." Kim So-young smiled as she opened a secure communication channel to Earth Command. The years of secret development, hidden from even most of humanity's leadership, had finally paid off. "Initiate Project Ghost Fleet," she transmitted through encrypted quantum channels. We're ready for mass production. Back in the Imperial throne room, Admiral Rexthor, a veteran, commander with cybernetic implants covering half his reptilian head, stepped forward with additional intelligence reports. My Emperor, our spy networks have detected massive construction activities in the human outer system. They're building something big, and they're doing it fast. Thaxalon rose from his throne, his towering form casting long shadows across the chamber. Show me. The holographic display shifted to show grainy surveillance images of human construction facilities. Massive automated shipyards worked around the clock, assembling vessels that looked similar to the Whisper but with subtle design variations. These images are only 6 days old, Rexthor reported. If they can mass-produce this phantom technology, they could threaten our entire expansion into their sector. In Earth's solar system, Captain Choi Junwoo stood on the bridge of humanity's second phantom ship, the Shadow Walker. The vessel was longer and more heavily armed than the Whisper, designed specifically for deep space operations. His crew of 25 specialists had trained for months on the experimental technology. Captain, final systems check complete, reported his engineering officer, Lieutenant Lee Min-jung. Phantom drive is operating at 100% efficiency. Choi Junwoo nodded as he reviewed his classified orders. Earth Command had accelerated the timeline dramatically after the first contact incident. The Empire was mobilizing, and humanity needed to be ready. Navigation, plot a course for the Kepler sector, he commanded. We're going to test our capabilities against Imperial supply lines. Back on the Imperial capital, Emperor Thaxalon made his decision. The threat was too great to ignore, and waiting would only allow the humans to build more phantom ships. General Morgeth, mobilize the 1st, 2nd, and 4th fleets immediately, he decreed, his voice echoing through the crystal chamber. Deploy all available forces. We crush these humans before they can build more ghost ships, or we risk losing everything we've conquered. The War Council dispersed quickly, each member rushing to implement the Emperor's orders. Within hours, the largest Imperial armada in a century began assembling at the edge of human space. Neither side fully understood what they were about to unleash. The Empire saw only a threat to be eliminated, while humanity prepared to defend. Their home with technology that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The stage was set for a conflict that would determine whether humanity remained hidden in their small corner of space or emerged as the galaxy's newest superpower. The massive Imperial armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of human territory like a dark storm cloud blotting out the stars. Admiral Krovak, a battle-scarred veteran with cybernetic arms replacing those lost in the Andromedian Wars, stood on the bridge of his flagship, Devastator. The colossal dreadnought stretched nearly 2 kilometers in length, bristling with enough firepower to glass entire planets. Sensor sweep complete, Admiral, reported his tactical officer, a multi-eyed creature whose species specialized in detecting hidden enemies. I'm reading as nothing. Empty space as far as our instruments can detect. Krovak's mechanical fingers drummed against his command console. Intelligence had warned him the humans possessed unusual stealth capabilities, but this seemed impossible. His fleet of 800 vessels spread across millions of cubic kilometers of space, their sensors working at maximum sensitivity. They have to be here somewhere, he muttered, studying the tactical display. No species simply abandons their territory without a fight. Unknown to the Imperial forces, 30 human ships hung motionless in quantum phase just beyond their perception, existing in the space between dimensions. Captain Lee Hyun stood calmly on the Whisper's bridge, watching the alien fleet through his quantum displays like a predator observing prey. Ghost Fleet actual to all units, he spoke into his communication headset. Enemy formation confirmed. 800 ships arranged in standard Imperial attack formation. They're exactly where we expected them to be. Lieutenant Park Min-ho monitored the Phantom drive systems across all 30 ships, ensuring perfect synchronization. All vessels reporting optimal phase variance, Captain. We can maintain invisibility for another 6 hours if needed. We won't need that long, Lee Hyun replied with quiet confidence. All ships, prepare for simultaneous phase-in. Attack pattern Delta on my mark. Across the Ghost Fleet, captains and crews made final preparations. Captain Yoon Da-hee aboard the Phantom Strike checked her ship's internal breach systems 1 last time. Her vessel specialized in infiltration tactics, designed to appear inside enemy ships and disable them from within. "Internal detonation charges armed and ready," reported her demolitions expert, Sergeant Ko Sung-min. "We can take out their reactor core in under 30 seconds once we're inside." Meanwhile, Captain Park Ji-hoon's Ghost Dancer flickered briefly into normal space, just long enough for his crew to confirm targeting data on the nearest Imperial cruiser. His ship was built for hit-and-run tactics, appearing long enough to strike before vanishing again. "All units, this is Ghost Leader," Lee Hyun announced across the fleet communication network. "Begin phase attack pattern Delta. Show them what ghosts can do." 30 human ships materialized simultaneously around the Imperial Armada, like demons emerging from the void. The alien crews barely had time to register the impossible sight before the phantom vessels began their deadly dance. "Contact! Multiple contacts!" screamed the sensor operator aboard Krovak's flagship. "They're everywhere. How did they get so close?" The phantom strike phased directly through the hull of the Imperial battleship Bloodfang, its quantum field, allowing it to pass through solid matter like mist. Once inside the enemy vessel's reactor compartment, Yoon Da-hee's crew worked with practiced efficiency. "Internal detonation charges planted, Captain," she reported calmly, while her demolitions team attached quantum explosives to critical systems. 30 seconds to detonation. The alien crew of the Bloodfang had only moments to realize their ship was doomed. Emergency alarms wailed as they scrambled for escape pods, but most wouldn't make it in time. The phantom strike phased back into quantum space just as the charges detonated, tearing the massive battleship apart from within. Across the battlefield, similar scenes of impossible warfare played out in deadly precision. The Ghost Dancer flickered in and out of normal space like a lethal strobe light, appearing just long enough to disable enemy weapon systems before vanishing again. Captain Park Ji-hoon's crew had perfected the technique during months of simulation training. "Target their command bridges," Ji-hoon ordered as his ship materialized behind an Imperial cruiser. "Take out their ability to coordinate, then move to the next target." Quantum torpedoes launched from the Ghost Dancer struck the enemy vessel's bridge section before the ship faded back into dimensional phase. The alien command crew never saw the attack coming. Commander Vortes, a reptilian officer aboard the Imperial destroyer Venom, watched in horror as human ships appeared inside, his formation like phantoms materializing from nightmares. "They're inside our shields," he screamed into his communication system, his voice breaking with panic. "How is this possible? Our defensive grid should stop anything from getting through." His ship's shields were designed to repel energy weapons and deflect solid projectiles, but they were useless against enemies that existed partially outside normal spacetime. The human vessels passed through the energy barriers like they weren't even there. Admiral Krovak tried desperately to coordinate his fleet's response, but traditional military tactics were meaningless against an enemy that could strike from any direction and disappear before retaliation was possible. "All ships, random evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Don't let them predict our positions." But even as his vessels scattered across space, the Ghost Fleet adapted instantly. Captain Lee Hyun coordinated the attack with surgical precision, directing his phantom ships to exploit every weakness in the Imperial formation. The battle that followed would be remembered as the day conventional space warfare became obsolete. The Imperial fleet found themselves fighting enemies they couldn't hit, couldn't track, and couldn't escape, facing technology that turned every rule of combat on its head. The Ghost Fleet's campaign spread terror across Imperial space like a plague that couldn't be stopped or contained. Captain Kim Tae-won studied the tactical hologram of Kepler Station from his command chair aboard the Night Wraith. The massive orbital facility hung in space like a metallic spider, its 8 arms extending outward to dock the largest supply ships in the galaxy. This single station fueled the Empire's war machine across 3 entire sectors. "Target analysis complete, Captain," reported Lieutenant Baek Ji-woo from the intelligence station. "Kepler Station houses enough antimatter fuel to power their entire 4th Fleet for 6 months. Destroying it will cripple their operations in this region." Kim Tae-won nodded grimly. The 38-year-old captain had earned his reputation leading dangerous missions behind enemy lines, but nothing compared to commanding a phantom ship. His crew of specialists had trained extensively for this moment. "All hands, prepare for deep infiltration," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We're going inside the most heavily defended station in Imperial space." The Night Wraith approached Kepler Station while cloaked in quantum phase, invisible to the facility's sophisticated sensor arrays. Hundreds of automated defense platforms surrounded the station like deadly satellites, their weapon systems capable of vaporizing capital ships. Fighter squadrons patrolled in perfect formations, piloted by the Empire's elite guard units. "Phase shift in 3, 2, 1, announced Ensign Han Yu-jin from the navigation console, her hands dancing across the quantum field controls. The Night Wraith materialized directly inside Kepler Station's central hub, bypassing every defensive system the Empire had ever devised. The human ship appeared in the station's main reactor chamber, a vast space filled with pulsing energy conduits and massive fuel storage tanks. "Breach teams, go!" Kim Tae-won commanded. Squads of human soldiers in advanced combat suits poured from the ship's airlocks, moving with deadly efficiency through the station's corridors. The alien crew barely had time to sound alarms before critical systems began exploding throughout the facility. Sergeant Oh Min-seok led his demolition team toward the primary fuel storage area, where millions of tons of antimatter were contained in magnetic bottles. "Charges set on storage tanks 7 through 12, he reported through his helmet communicator. "This place is going to light up like a small sun." The station's security forces, a mix of reptilian warriors and robotic sentries, tried desperately to stop the human infiltrators. But fighting enemies who had appeared from nowhere inside their most secure facility was like battling ghosts that could strike from any direction. Within 8 minutes, the Empire's largest fuel depot was reduced to scattered debris, its destruction visible from neighboring star systems. The explosion sent shockwaves through Imperial command structures as entire fleet operations ground to a halt without fuel supplies. On the crystal spires of the Imperial homeworld, Emperor Thaxelon sat in his war room, receiving increasingly desperate reports from across his crumbling empire. Holographic displays showed red zones spreading like cancer across the galactic map, each one representing territories where his forces could no longer maintain control. My emperor, his aide, a trembling insectoid creature named Clackvor, approached with another batch of surrender requests. "The Outer Rim colonies are declaring independence. They refuse to fight ghosts that can appear inside their own ships." Thaxelon's 4 arms gripped the edges of his command table so tightly that the metal began to bend. 3,000 years of Imperial expansion were crumbling in a matter of weeks. "How many worlds have we lost?" he demanded. 47 systems have formally surrendered to human forces," Clackvor replied, his compound eyes reflecting fear. "Another 63 have simply abandoned their defensive positions. Our governors report mass desertions among military units." Meanwhile, Admiral Song Hye-jin prepared for the largest ghost fleet operation in human history. Her flagship, Spectral, Wind served as the command center for a coordinated strike involving 60 phantom ships, targeting 12 Imperial worlds simultaneously. "All fleet commanders, final status report," she requested, through secure quantum channels. Captain responses came in rapid succession from across the galaxy. Captain Nam Dong-hyun confirmed his strike team was in position near the Imperial fortress world of Vex Prime. Captain Lim Soo-jin reported her squadron ready to assault the Empire's main shipyard at Thorax Station. "Operation Phantom Storm is go," Song Hye-jin announced. "All units begin simultaneous assault. Show them that nowhere in the galaxy is safe from human reach." 60 ghost ships struck at once across 12 different star systems. The spectral wind led the assault on the Imperial Naval Academy at Ai-He, Corvin, materializing inside the facility's main lecture hall where future officers were training. The psychological impact proved devastating. Young Imperial cadets watched in terror as human soldiers emerged from a ship that had appeared from thin air. Many would never recover from the trauma of seeing their supposedly impregnable academy invaded by forces that seemed to come from another dimension. On military bases across the Empire, soldiers began abandoning their posts rather than face an enemy that could strike from within their own defensive perimeters. The fear of phantom ships became more powerful than any weapon humanity had ever deployed. General Morgeth tried desperately to rally his remaining forces, but reports flooded in from every sector. Fleet commanders were requesting permission to retreat to the core worlds. Planetary governors begged for evacuation. The Empire's military structure was collapsing under the weight of terror and uncertainty. The tide of war had turned completely. Humanity's ghost fleet had transformed from defenders of a single world into the dominant force in the galaxy, and the once mighty Empire found itself retreating on every front. The crystal throne room of the Imperial Palace had never felt so empty. Emperor Thaxelon stood alone among the towering pillars that had once symbolized his power over 3,000 worlds. Dust particles drifted through shafts of purple sunlight, streaming through the massive windows, settling on abandoned ceremonial weapons and empty guard posts. His court had fled weeks ago when the phantom raids reached the inner systems. The silence was broken by the soft chime of an incoming transmission. A holographic projector descended from the ornate ceiling, casting blue light across the Emperor's weathered features. His forearms hung limply at his sides as he accepted the communication from Earth. Captain Li Hyun's image materialized in perfect detail, standing confidently on the bridge of the Whisper. Behind him, dozens of human officers worked at their stations, coordinating operations across an entire galaxy. The contrast was striking. Where the Imperial throne room echoed with emptiness, the human command center buzzed with purposeful activity. "Your Majesty," Li Hyun said with respectful but firm authority, "Earth offers terms for your surrender. Your remaining forces will be allowed to maintain control of your core worlds under human oversight. All expansion beyond your current borders will cease permanently." Thaxelon studied the human captain's face, searching for any sign of cruelty or conquest lust that had driven so many galactic empires. Instead, he saw only calm determination and something unexpected: genuine desire for peace rather than domination. Lieutenant Park Min-ho's voice could be heard in the background as he provided status updates. "Ghost Fleet positions confirmed across 47 sectors, Captain. All patrol routes are maintaining optimal coverage. No hostile movements detected in any monitored systems." The Emperor realized with growing amazement that humanity's phantom ships had spread across distances that would have taken his empire decades to cover. They weren't just winning the war, they were simultaneously policing the entire galaxy, preventing conflicts between hundreds of different species. "Your terms are generous," Thaxelon admitted, his pride struggling against the reality of total defeat. Most conquerors would demand complete submission. Li Hyun's expression softened slightly. "We're not conquerors, Your Majesty. We never wanted this war. We simply want to ensure that no empire ever again threatens peaceful worlds the way yours threatened Earth." Through the palace windows, Thaxelon could see his once mighty capital city. Streets that had once bustled with beings from across the galaxy now stood nearly empty. The few remaining citizens moved cautiously, uncertain about their future under this new galactic order. "We accept," the Emperor said quietly, the words carrying the weight of 3 millennia of imperial history. His empire, once spanning half the galaxy, was now reduced to a handful of core worlds that would exist only at humanity's discretion. "Your acceptance is acknowledged," Li Hyun replied formally. "Transition protocols will begin immediately. Human advisors will arrive within the week to help establish new governmental structures focused on peaceful coexistence." Light years away, Captain Choi Ye-won stood on the observation deck of her patrol vessel, Spirit Walker, as it glided silently through space that had been Imperial territory just months before. Her ship's phantom drive allowed it to monitor vast regions simultaneously, existing partially in multiple dimensions, to maintain watch over dozens of star systems at once. "Captain, we're receiving reports from the Andorian sector," announced Lieutenant Shin Hye-ri from the communication station. "2 mining colonies were having territorial disputes, but they've agreed to arbitration when they learned we were monitoring the situation." Choi Ye-won smiled. The mere presence of ghost ships had become a powerful peacekeeping force. Species across the galaxy had quickly learned that phantom vessels could appear anywhere without warning, making aggressive actions extremely risky. "Maintain patrol pattern and continue monitoring," she ordered. "File a report with Earth Command about the successful dispute resolution." In Earth's orbital command center, Admiral Kim So-young stood before a massive holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Thousands of small lights represented human phantom ships maintaining peace across countless worlds. What had started as a desperate defense of humanity's home had evolved into something far greater. "Status report from all sectors," she requested. From her operations center, "All ghost ships reporting normal operations," replied Commander Yu Jae-sung. "Piracy incidents down 93% since we began regular patrols. Interplanetary conflicts at historic lows. Trade routes are reporting the safest conditions in recorded galactic history." Kim So-young watched the display with quiet satisfaction. Humanity had emerged from obscurity not through conquest or domination, but through innovation that made them untouchable. The phantom drive technology had given them something no empire had ever possessed: the ability to be everywhere at once, preventing conflicts before they could escalate. The transformation had been remarkable. Where the old imperial system had relied on fear and oppression to maintain order, humanity's approach focused on preventing problems rather than punishing them after the fact. Ghost ships appeared wherever tensions arose, their mere presence enough to encourage peaceful solutions. Former imperial worlds had quickly discovered that life under human oversight was dramatically different from their previous existence. Instead of demanding tribute and conscripting soldiers, human administrators helped establish fair trade agreements and peaceful diplomatic processes between neighboring systems. The phantom ships continued their eternal patrol, guardians existing between dimensions, their quantum drives humming with the power to maintain peace across the galaxy. They had become legends among countless species, mysterious vessels that could appear from nowhere to stop aggression and vanish just as quickly. Humanity had achieved something that no galactic empire in history had ever accomplished: true peace through strength that couldn't be challenged or overcome. The Ghost Fleet ensured that no empire would ever again threaten innocent worlds, establishing a new galactic order based on protection rather than conquest. The end.